Hi everyone, welcome to the BioEdge.
The clitoris in the human species is now widely regarded in civilized countries, in educated countries with a scientific ethic, as being the most marvelous biological invention. It's touted as being the only organ anywhere in the human body that is 100% specialized for and devoted to sexual pleasure. And in this way, it would seem that women have it over men because the corresponding organ, the penis, although a very well developed and organ that's got a lot of attention paid to it, can't make the same claim. The penis is at least two and possibly three functions all rolled up into one. The second obvious function being as a spout for micturition, as a spout along which the urine flows to keep it out of the way as a man pees. The third function, of course, is the obvious one that tends to be downplayed, and that is as a scent organ, as an organ of olfactory communication. And we humans aren't particularly proud of that particular aspect, although we see scent communication so much in the mammalian world. Now, if it were true, if it were a biological reality that in humans the clitoris is unique in being a purely sexual organ, then we can make some predictions for mammals in general and test them by looking at other mammals and examining the realities of clitoral form and function in mammals in general. The first thing we'd expect is that in all mammals, we'd find a similar pattern in which sexual stimulation by the male would focus on the clitoris. And indeed, in situations where, for example, you have induced ovulation, like in cats, where the female actually ovulates in response to being penetrated and being in copulation, and that's not something that's true in humans, but it is true in cats, that induced ovulation we would predict to be in response to, for example, clitoral orgasm. It seems perfectly logical that if you're going to have induced ovulation, and the clitoris is the master organ of sexual excitement, we should have induced ovulation produced by clitoral stimulation. And there are various other predictions we can make, but let's just roll with those two and let's look at the diversity of clitoral form. Now, all mammals out there do have a clitoris in the female. Every single mammal has one. But the first thing we notice when we look beyond the human species is the astonishing variety of forms of clitorises out there. Most of them are quite different from the human clitoris. Some of them are inside the vagina. Others are similar to our own in being just outside the vagina. And in some mammals, such as the elephants, the clitoris and the vagina are more than a meter apart. So you have a complete range of positions. And in some cases, the clitoris faces away from the sexual opening and for various reasons is not actually contacted directly by the penis or by the male's body at all during copulation or during courtship. Secondly, what we observe among mammals in general is that male advances on the female very seldom target the clitoris. In fact, I cannot think of a single example of a mammal anywhere, and that includes our famously sexual nearest relative, the bonobo. I can't think of a single mammal anywhere in which the male specifically attempts to stimulate the clitoris as an exclusively sexual practice. Because in bonobos, there's a lot of clitoral stimulation going on, but it happens between females, it happens between juveniles and adults, and it happens more as a social lubricant than as a sexual event. And so here we have a wide variety of forms of the clitoris, in many cases facing away from the sexual event. We have a whole lot of courtship approaches by males, which almost never deliberately or pointedly stimulate the clitoris. And then what we also have is that in those mammals that do have induced ovulation, it's not caused by a clitoral stimulation at all. It's caused by, in the case of cats, something much more barbarous, as it were, because the male's penis actually has little hooks on it. And when he penetrates her, it hurts. The hooks actually hurt the inside of the vagina, far away from the clitoris. And that pain causes her to ovulate. And so it's hard to find a single example among the many species of mammals in which the clitoris conforms with our idealized notion of what it's for in humans. In the case of pigs, you have an example of clitoris that's internal. You can imagine it's almost like a vulva that has been turned outside in the sense that what is quite a distance from the vaginal opening in the human is now well within the vaginal opening in the pig. And so, of course, the large corkscrew-shaped penis of the pig does indeed stimulate the clitoris inevitably during copulation. But even there, we're not sure that particular stimulation makes much difference. It's hard to know. What we do know, though, is that every mammal that we've looked at so far has a different role for the clitoris, and that is the scent producing role, because like the penis, the clitoris has an epithelium that is glandular, that produces smegma. And in many cases, this aromatic smegma can be mixed in various combinations with urine, both fresh and stale. And as we know, urine has hormones in it. And it can culture bacteria and all these different sources, glandular, hormonal from the urine, and also microbial, can all produce a rich brew of scents and smells, which may mean a lot to an animal like a dog, for example, which has a sense of smell, hundreds or thousands of times more acute than our own. And in some mammals, the use of the clitoris for depositing scent is extremely obvious. For example, in bush babies, which have a clitoris that is not only long and pendulous like a penis, but actually has the function of directing the urine, much as in the male. And bush babies, galagos, and other primates, including some lemurs, have an obvious use of the clitoris in the form of depositing scent. When we come to an animal with one of the most peniform clitorises of all, which is the spotted hyena, the female spotted hyena has what appears to be a penis, and she again passes urine through it, and certainly uses it for olfactory communication, because female spotted hyenas are continually sniffing each other's penis-like clitorises. But again, it's very difficult to imagine how a female spotted hyena gets an iota of sexual pleasure from her clitoris, because in order to be copulated, she has to kind of withdraw the entire peniform clitoris close to her body, allow it to be distended enough to get the penis in there, and then be mated through her peniform clitoris. If you can imagine two male humans mating through each other's penises, it's a bit like that. And then she has to give birth through the darn thing as well. And so it's not easy to imagine how the glands of that clitoris could be in a position to give her any pleasure at all. And so the most extreme example of a peniform clitoris among mammals, which is in the spotted hyena, is perhaps the least likely to give sexual pleasure. And that theme is repeated over and over, whereas every time we've looked at any clitoris in mammals, we've always found some potential scent marking function. And so we'd suggest that based on lateral thinking among mammals, as opposed to just looking at humans in isolation, the real nature of the clitoris in mammals in general is as a consistently scent marking organ, used mainly socially within the species as opposed to sexually. Some sexual use, but consistent social use, and that humans are something of an exception in having quite a lot of emphasis on sexual pleasure in the use of the clitoris, but that even in humans, this role is not exclusive, and that even in humans, at least half of what the clitoris does, as it were, is to disseminate scent. And in the interests of a frank and insightful look at our own biology, we'd encourage some new hypothesis testing in our own species as to how women really use the clitoris in at least two different ways, one sexually and the other in terms of within species social communication via scent.